Hello everyone. I just finished developing this project. It took me approximately 12 to 15 hours to complete the development. So that is pretty good considering that this project is possible that a project like this can be completed within a 3-day time period, or within like 3 days if you commit maybe 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours per day. So in here, what am I going to do here? Let's see. So let's start from the idea of what I was thinking when I developed this tool. Basically, I was studying AWS, and I was looking into basically all the resources that I can find on AWS. And I realized that AWS does not really have a good support for test examination questions. So this is the reason why I developed this tool, and basically the idea is that I went through a list of PDF files that I can use as a format, and basically as you can see, these PDF files have do indeed have test questions in here. So they do have a series of review questions, and I was thinking, what if it's possible to develop a tool to take a list of PDF files for a particular course. I would recommend using the same PDF study guide, but maybe different versions of the same study guide, and then using this as a template. So basically, the idea is that I will go ahead and look for a particular review question study. So if I look into the table of index, you'll see that there are going to be questions and answers. So we have answers to review questions here, and we have all of these questions here. So and then we also have I guess like going through here, exam essentials and review questions. So at the end of every chapter there is a list of review questions. And if we go into the index, there are answers to those review questions. So over here in Appendix A, we have answers to the review questions. So the idea of this tool is basically I can take a review question. Let's go into the example that I was able to compile. Basically, the idea is that I'm going to take the assessment and I'm going to extract the review questions. And the way I'll extract it is basically I'll print the file and I'll select Save as PDF. And this is important. This part is important to generate the study guide, because basically this study guide is effective, and this tool can integrate with other PDF formats to extract these test questions. So the idea is that I will save this section as a PDF format. I'm not going to use the Microsoft to PDF format, because there's a slight difference between these two files. If I save it as PDF, you'll notice that I'm able to highlight the text. And this is very important because the tool that I've developed actually uses a file parser, and it's very important that these texts can be highlighted, because if it's not highlighted, the Microsoft Print to PDF formats this into some sort of photocopy picture, and this is something that does not work with the tool. Although I'm able to highlight it, if I do print to PDF with Microsoft Print, this will actually be a copy of an image, and that would become a little bit troublesome to extract the text. So what I want to do is save as PDF, and I'll extract the text, save it into a directory. When I have that file, just for example's sake, if I have that PDF file, what I want to do is basically I will go into my application, I'll go into the input folder, and you'll see here that there could be a folder structure for different courses. For this particular one, I'm using AWS Cloud Practitioner, and I've separated 3 folder groups. One for the original book, one for the answers and one for the questions. And basically what you can do is you can put and upload your questions into the question folder and your answers into the answer folder. The only thing to keep in mind is that to maintain the naming convention. So if you're going to add a new question, use the same name, but just increment it with a value 2. So for example, if I rename this, if I add a new file, then instead of questions 1, I'll just name it questions 2, questions 3, questions 4, and I'll upload every single one of those PDF files into this questions folder, and I will have the corresponding answers in the answers folder. So if I were to add a new file for the answers, I will basically upload and increment the name of each one of the corresponding answers by 1, 2, 3, just like that. And I will just add those list of PDFs to the answers folder and the list of questions in the questions folder. And what this application will do is it will process all of these questions and answers, and it will generate an exam study. And the way it works is basically, if I run the tool, just as it is, I already have a Cloud Practitioner questions 1, and if I open that PDF here, you'll see that it is the extracted text that I just showed you. And if I open the Cloud Practitioner answers, these are the answers to the test assessments. Okay, so these are the input files for this program, and now I have a tool that will generate. So this is a Scala FX. This tool was developed in Scala. I developed in Scala, and what I would do is I'll select a course. Currently, when I just finished developing this tool, I did not add a AWS Solutions Architect, but you can imagine that it would work the same with AWS Architect. It will work the same for DevOps. All I would have to do is maintain this folder convention, along with the input files, the answers, questions. Books is not necessary, but you can also add the books for references. So the AWS Solutions Architect is not implemented, but what I would do is basically I will go through a PDF file and I will extract the text that I'm interested in to generate this tool. The same exact way that I just showed you for the Cloud Practitioner. So I'll go ahead and select a course, and you'll see that the program is able to extract every single one of these questions, and it would be able to go ahead and give you a drill through quiz, and you would be able to test your knowledge before taking the AWS exam, just like this. So let's just go through a scenario. So there we go. So everything in here, you'll see that all the answers are correlated, and the program itself is able to parse these values and create this solution for you to submit to basically test your understanding of the course that you are interested in. So let's take a look at another example. Now, I actually have not tested with any other PDFs, so there may be bugs in this application. Maybe, but I just don't know. I actually don't know because I have not tested it, but I will possibly be making consecutive updates to this tool in the future. So I would have a full, thorough course for all the AWS certificates. But this is a very neat tool as it is, and I've already uploaded one test, and I'm going to deploy this one or at least I'm going to release it in GitHub for open source, and anyone can fork it, anyone can make updates of their own to it if they like. Now, but just to walk, if someone is interested in updating this and making updates, this program was developed in Scala. I developed this in Scala, and basically you're going to have a path, a file system path. The file system path is going to point to this input folder, and it's going to create the same kind of tools that are in JavaFX, but rewritten in Scala, basically. So there is a choice box in the initial stage, and on the choice box, when an action is committed, there's going to be a directory list. I'm going to get the selected directory list and append that to the directory. I'm going to use that directory path to build a handler, what I define to be a scene handler, to generate the questions view. So I was thinking I'm going to update this tool in the future to integrate maybe graphs and maybe a training mechanism where, like, I would tell someone to take or program a certain function that will enable users to take it 6 times consecutively, the exams, and they'll see their incremental progression. Because one of the key factors in these examinations is that you don't want to just like try to understand everything about AWS, but you do want to memorize the answers. It is the most efficient way to getting a good passing grade in these kind of exams. So this tool is going to play a very key part in success. Although I know the Cloud Practitioner's exam is not that difficult, most likely. Okay, so the scene handler here. So this is a structure that I used to develop, and scene handler is an object here. I'm going to add a list of questions, a list of answers. I'm going to initialize the first scene. The first scene is going to be passing in the choice box, and the choice box here is going to insert just the initial view, which has the designer label and the choice box. So part of the children in here of the VBox is going to have the choice box and the designer label. That is exactly what you're going to see in the first loading, in the first initial scene of the FX project. So right here, so this is the choice box and this is the designer label. But just going through, if I select a course, what happens is there's a listener that takes place. The listener is executed, which is on this checkbox. CBX is a choice box, and the choice box is going to set an action. This action is executed. The scene handler will add a questions list and answers list, and then is going to execute this next function. This next function is basically going to build the second view. The second view is basically the choices of questions and the label of the question. And it handles 2 functions for 2 buttons, which is next and submit. When a submit function is called, you're going to see this logic in here. This is the listener. So every time this button is clicked, there's going to be the action is going to initialize. You can initialize breakpoints on your debugger when the submit button is clicked. Same thing for next button. There's nothing fancy about this, unfortunately. I realize Scala FX is not the best way to develop this platform. I think it's best to develop JavaFX as JavaFX, because if you look into the root Scala FX, they do use JavaFX as a dependency. That you will notice if you take a look into the Scala FX library. You're going to see that they import the original JavaFX, and they work through rewriting a Scala version of JavaFX. So But yeah, it is a little bit difficult to create a structure for this project, especially with the views. Initially, you're pretty much blindsided. You're not going to be uh, you're not going to see a visual diagram of the program that you're writing, but you kind of have to, like, work your way through it. I developed this scene handler to kind of handle transition between scenes, but maybe there's a better structure that I can implement. But anyway, so before those, so that's just the basic overview of what's going on transitionally in the UX design. But what's happening in the internals of the application is that there's a question builder, a question answer builder. I call it QA. So in here, basically, one of the dependencies in here is using a parser, a file parser. And I implemented the logic of a file parser in this class, in this object called file handler. And what this QA builder will do is it's going to use the file handler, is going to set the directory path from the input, is going to set the path of the questionnaire to build the questions, and that's basically going to correlate with the folder structure of the questions in this location. So when I set the question path, I will retrieve the files. So all the files will get retrieved. I will parse the files, and I will retrieve the parsed files. And for each file that I have, I'm going to implement this logic that's going to create the questionnaire for the answer choices. Now, one of the complicated challenges in this project was basically developing a regex expression. So how was it that I was able to extract these PDF files and create a match case for the values that I'm seeking? So that was the complicated challenge in this project. So just to give you an idea of how that works, I will select all of the text, and one of the tools that I've used to build this regex expression is basically I will copy and paste this entire paste, because basically what the parser will do is it's going to generate a string value from the PDF files. And what I would do here is that I will test out the regex expression, different regex expressions. And one of the things you see here that you select this is a very good tool, by the way, for building regex, a very complicated regex expressions. So in here, you're going to see that there's also a quick reference guide here. So any digit followed by a period, you can see that all the digits are selected by period. So this is a neat way for me to separate or start separating the text from the question from the text from the answer choices. So that is what I used. And if you were to test my regex expression, this was the most challenging part. It almost took me a good 4 hours to complete this expression. So you're going to see that once I have this expression, you're going to see 25 match cases, which correlates to 25 answer choices, 25 questions. And you're going to see that it was successfully able to select the first line of text that queries the user for the question, basically. So using this expression, I was able to separate the PDF format. And then the second part of it is that I decided to implement a logic to retrieve the answer choices. And the way I did that was a little bit differently, because this was a little bit complicated, very, very complicated, a regex expression, and it was not possible to do it in one, or it would become very complicated to do it with one expression. So what I've done instead is once I've added the list of questions, so there's three things here. I have a list of questions, a list of options for those questions, and a list of answers. And from these choices, basically, I will extract and build the template. So for the list of questions, I would add the matching string, which is basically when I use this regex expression, which is pattern 1. Applying this regex expression to find all the match cases is going to equate to the regex expression here and allow me to iterate and find all the match cases for the questions. Once I have those lists of questions, I add it as a list of questions, which is basically just a buffer, a string buffer, a list buffer for a string. And then what I'll do is I will basically, I created a variable to copy the files and simply replace, or basically remove the text that I matched. So once I remove the text that I matched, basically, you're going to see this file turn and execute would be removing all these highlighted values. And as you can imagine, and I'll just use those few examples at the top. And once I've extracted and removed the questionnaire, what I'm left with is a series of choices. And now my job is to find out how I can get all the options. And that is going to be used from the second pattern match. The second pattern match is using this regex expression. You're going to see that I'm able to successfully extract what I'm looking for here. I think, however, I should run through the code to see exactly what the assessment is pulling, but I don't want to just select all the values, but there is something in here that is a little bit different. Okay, anyway, regardless, let's take a look at what this is going with. So when I find the regex expression, what I do is I split all the values that are double spaced, and what that will do is it will allow me to separate every single line once I have the selection of values that are from A to whatever. What I will have here is a list of basically what it will do is because we're using a replace function in the previous, the replace function is going to replace us with the empty line, and the empty line is going to equate to a basically a new line. And when this happens, we're going to have a situation where all of these answer choices are separated by two new lines, and we're going to have this structure like this. So basically what this method is doing is that this is going to split every single value by two new lines, and for each line in the string, basically what it's doing is creating an array where this object is going to be the first part of an array, and this object is going to be a second part of the array, and this object is going to be the third part of the array. Okay, so and afterwards what will this logic is going to go ahead and create the options list, and you're going to see that the PDF formats are following this kind of method where you have an option and a space. And if we keep that convention, this is going to generate the options list, and then we're going to have a build answers list, build answers function, which will work very similarly, except the file format is going to look like this now. So in here what I've done is basically I've created a split with the regex matching expression, which basically it basically allows me to match any numbers a consecutive amount of times with a period. So what that does basically, it will go ahead and start highlighting these values 1, 2, 3. And based on every single number is going to split the value and is going to create an array. So all the values up to here will be split. All the values up to here will be split. And this will become an array. And then I'll simply just take the answers. I will take the first part of the choice, because in here we have the first letter is the choice of the answer. And the second part is the text of the reasoning behind the answer. So that is what is used to generate the answers list. Then I will go ahead and since we have what we're looking for here, we're going to have the answer list and the questions list. We add it to the scene handler. The scene handler will add the list of questions, the list of answers, and it will generate. We will have a list of answers, and then we will have an open-ended data structure for the selected answers from the user. In the function next, we're going to have a comparison. So basically, this is the view for the label design. Everything up to here, but the action events are set over here, which will trigger on the click of the button. So when we submit, we're going to have a comparison between the two texts, between the list of answers and the list of selected answers from the user, and then is basically going to generate the answer label if it's a decision is made from a correct or incorrect answer. Then we'll have a next label visibility. The answer label is also visible. And if the user proceeds to the next question, basically is going to revert some of the visibility. It's going to deselect the radio buttons. It's going to increment the index by 1, and is going to regenerate the view. So the reason I'm explaining this programmatically is because if someone is interested in developing on this tool, because it does have potentials, most of the hard work is done, but maybe there are some bugs here and there. Maybe there's some support for some additional kind of exam guides that may use a slightly different structure, but there are a lot of potential. Maybe someone wants to generate or develop graphs on top of this if I don't do it in the future myself. Basically you get the idea. So I can go through this entire book and I can start pulling out assessments from different chapters. I go to review questions. I find a review question from pages 46 to 48, and I'm very confident about this my development, so I'm going to go ahead and try to so this is 48, 46 to 48. So I'm going to go ahead and see what happens if I add another test question here. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to save to PDF, and I'm going to save it as questions 2. Okay. And there I have my saved PDF. I'm going to test my selection. I'm able to select. I'm going to go back. I'm going to look for the answer choices for chapter 1. So I'm going to go all the way down here, and I'm going to go to chapter 1, and these are the answers for chapter 1. One thing to note here that I realized that we have one page that has 2 chapters. So this is something to keep in mind, because like I wouldn't want to add that section. So there is going to be a bug in this particular answer choice, unfortunately, but because I already see the bug because I know the way I've written my program. Unfortunately, this book does not have this a separated value, but there could be some a logic that someone can write that can handle this case where so users can still try to use this the same way. So I think it could be a beginning or correlate some sort of convention that will separate chapter questions, whatever it may be, and then detect the first user case. Who knows? But anyway, I know that this will still generate, but this is a unique case that I should think about. So anyway, let's try this. We have page 268, and we're just going to print that value. 268. And that's just this one page. I'm going to save it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rename this to answers. Answers 2. Now let's take a look at what we have. So we have questions and answers. So let's go back to my tool and let's see if we were able to pick up these questions. I'm going to go ahead and add it. Oops, something's frozen. Maybe I'm running too many things at once. So I'm going to try this again. Let's go. Let's add it. So I'm just making sure that the naming is correct. And we're going to add the answer choices to the answers. And the first question has the first questionnaire has 25 questions, and the second questionnaire I think has like 12 or something. So we're going to go ahead and run this tool, and let's see if we have a total of 37 questions. So I'm going to select the course. So I'm just going to go through it and just pick random, and so just to go through how this would look. And this is no way to test my current knowledge, but I will be using my own tool to study for the AWS exam, because and I'm going to go ahead and take it, and the great thing about this is that I don't have to be right. I can simply be wrong until I understand it, and I can take the slow path, and I can read through the books, I can look through all the lectures, because my goal at the end of the day is to master this service, And there we go. We have another selection set which starts from 1, and we see that my tool was able to successfully parse what we're looking for. If I go into this, which one of the following does not contribute significant to the operation value of a large cloud provider? Blah blah blah. And let's see what my tool says here. Okay, which of the following does not contribute significantly to the operation value of a large cloud provider like AWS? That's the exact same question here. Okay, the only thing is that there was a little formatting issue here where the question actually has a large space in between, but that's okay. So we have, so now just so we believe just to see if my program is working correctly. This is the answer choice to part 1, but what about part 2? First answer is C. So let's see. I will pick C. That's the correct answer, yeah. So there we go. So this tool is able to successfully upload and generate a testing platform from the inputs of PDF formatted file. So that's all. That's all the demo for this project, and thank you.